Hey, Money Vikings, Greg here. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Got an interesting one, I think, today. I want to talk about the circle of true wealth. It's like a concept that I've been thinking about because I've been thinking about what creates a truly, maybe the word isn't happy, but a truly satisfying sort of true wealth life. The reason I'm not using happy is because happiness can be fleeting, and we can't help but have other things outside of our control impact our happiness. As stoic as I want to be, you certainly want to try to be in charge of your own happiness, and I would say for the most part we are. But we have to admit that there's some things where you're not going to be happy with it. I'm not happy with the tragedies of the world, or the travesties or the things that happen, to innocent people. That doesn't make me happy, but there's nothing I can do about it. I can try to do little things here and there, but there's nothing really on a massive scale I can do to change that. But I want to talk about several elements that create sort of a circle of true wealth, I think, after years of kind of thinking about all this. And I'm coming from a place where, kind of in like middle age right now. And, I was thinking back to like the when you're in your 20s, and kind of maybe a little bit before, you have childhood, of course, but then you have like your late teens, your 20s. You're really trying to like figure out your sort of purpose, I guess, in a way. You're trying to get like the basics of life down. You're trying to get like through school, trying to establish some kind of career or job that's somewhat satisfying and leads to growth, but at the same time also provides you enough income to live your life the way you want to and to build wealth, whatever it might be. So you're doing all that. You're probably trying to figure out relationships, like what works for you, what doesn't. You're interested in a long-term partner, and you're trying to find that. Maybe you're interested in having a family, and so you're trying to figure all that out. And so that time can be marked by a lot of movement and churn. Now that I think back on it. And not that, life kind of always has a bit of movement and churn and change. But, sorry, I've got something in my eye. Apologize. Okay. So, anyway, thinking back to that time, it's a time of flux, and you're trying to really figure things out. So then, a couple decades go by, or 15, 20 years, or it might be. And then you start thinking, what are the elements that make for a true wealth life? And so I've put together a few of them. I have a few ideas, and I see it as kind of a wheel. And when they're in perfect balance, I think that leads to the most sort of quote unquote happiness and true wealth. But when they're out of balance, or one of them is out of balance, you're trying to sort of rejigger things. So I'm talking about after basic needs are met, basic needs of housing, basic needs of health, basic needs of food and nutrition, clothing, basic needs of relationships. Okay. So the first one is, obviously, we talk a lot about finances here and investing. So having your sort of investing and your personal finance world, not perfect per se, but aligned and in order with what you want. Okay. And that has a lot to do with, really establishing a solid budget, having some form of your income, huge believer in this, but some amount at whatever age you are, some amount of your income going into something that's an asset for you, something that can grow over time so that you have the advantage of compounding and time. And I'm not talking about like crazy swing for the fences stuff. Okay. I'm talking about, VOO, Vanguard, S&P 500 index fund, Vanguard value fund, maybe some Berkshire stocks, some dividend aristocrat, ETFs, like a foundation of stuff that isn't this wacky off the wall, I'm going into this crypto with all this money. And it's like, really? I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but I doubt it. I could tell you that the S&P 500 companies are going to continue every day to push as hard as they can to add value to their shareholders and to their customers, right? and it's a self-cleansing system. So it's going to continue to evolve with time. Whereas when you pick sort of one or two winners here and there, you don't know how those are going to evolve or devolve over time. So not investment advice, but this is the way I see it after a couple decades of doing this stuff. So having that is sort of one part of the wheel. Okay. So you got that sort of organized. The next part of it I call sort of like purpose and relationships, right? So, and this is where I go into the true wealth stuff of like, I used to do more like collectibles and magic and all that in terms of like being with friends, but also it's about your relationships with your family, how you're communicating with your family. And again, none of this, guys, is ever going to be perfect. I'm just a big believer in understanding and realizing that life is never perfect. It is what it is. We're trying to make the best of things, but I don't think there's one magical moment when everything is perfect, right? But that's sort of the second part of it, is having sort of, as healthy as possible of relationships. And maybe that could even extend to like your relationship with, with food and with yourself. Do you have a healthy relationship? Do you have healthy self-talk? Are you talking to yourself in a healthy manner? Are you talking with other people in a healthy manner? Are you building appropriate boundaries? Are you communicating at the right times when you can? Listen, none of this is easy, okay? I get it. None of it's easy. But I think some of it can kind of click over time. So that's the second element. So the first one is like personal finance world. You have all that in place. The second part of the wheel is you have sort of your relationship with yourself. You have your relationship with other people. And that's a whole range of things. That's relationships with your community. It's a relationship with coworkers. And then the most important ones, I think, are the relationships with your immediate family. So have you built a healthy relationship there? It's not always easy, as I said, but finding some way, So that's the second part of that. And so the third thing I'm starting to realize is time. So the third part of the wheel is time. And I'm not saying it's just time to lounge around and do nothing. I think it's just sort of applying the use of time that's most aligned with your goals, with your mission, with your purpose, with your family. How is your day structured? How is your time structured? Do you have some time to maybe do a little something for yourself physically or mentally? Do you have some time to give back? Do you have time to do something for someone else? That could be as simple as just caring for your child, listening to your child or listening to your partner or whatever it might be. Do you have time, a little bit of time for that? I'm not talking about a lot of time, because again, I don't think there's a lot of ideal, and especially for folks, I'm Gen X. And so a lot of Gen X, for example, and we speak to all generations. We're not focused on one generation, but for millennials and Gen Xers, I'm gonna throw them in the same group now, but for millennials and Gen Xers, because the millennials are now 40, some of them. So like 32 to 57, you're in the thick of it with a lot of stuff in life. And your job responsibilities could be very high. Your family responsibilities could be very high. Your costs are very high. A lot of us don't have a paid off house or anything. So you have very high costs. So use of time is very important, how that's being managed. So that's kind of the wheel I wanted to talk about. Again, I'm calling it money, purpose, and time. Okay. So money, purpose, and time. Money is your full personal finance picture. Purpose is your relationships, your purpose, things you can do for other people that add value to the entire world and to other people, is purpose. And the third thing is time. How's time being managed? Is there enough time for these really important things? So that's kind of how I see the circle. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in and for supporting the channel, and we'll see you all on the next one. So please, hey, like and subscribe if you get value out of this. Thank you. Take care.